Hi, I am Mike, or Mikey, whatever you want to call me. I've been thinking about subjects overnight to sort of touch on and talk about that have affected me in my life. And this is sort of like a rolling diary for me now. I'm going to sort of update it every day or every other day as much as I can about stories from my past and present. So addiction. So I'm going to talk about addiction and the people it affects, including yourself. So let's start at the end of my addiction, and we'll go back. Okay, so where it ended up for me was in August of 2022. So in the run up to August 2022, I was drinking up to and over sometimes 1 litre of Gordon's gin a day. If I couldn't stomach the gin, I used to drink Prosecco. So I'd have to have maybe 4 or 5 bottles of Prosecco or 3 or 4 bottles of wine. But there you go. That was my level. Now, I know that there's people out there much worse than that. But that was sort of like the height. Now, the other side of that was I had addiction to prescription pain medication. So at the end, like I say, in August 2022, I was at my very worst point. I was taking 80, that's 80 painkillers a day. Now, if you do the calculation of 30 milligrams of codeine and 500 milligrams of paracetamol and times it by 80, I think in the paracetamol is something like 40,000 milligrams of paracetamol per day. So that's what my liver was having to filter, effectively. You know, all that alcohol and all the painkillers. Now, the reasons as to why that happened, I'll go through now. But at the end, I was admitted to a drug and alcohol service, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. I did engage with them about 10 years before, but I couldn't go through the cycle of it. I wasn't ready. And they managed to get me off the opiates, and I do take a therapeutic dose of buprenorphine now, but that is genuinely for pain. I have fibromyalgia, and I've got damaged meniscus in both knees. And yeah, I'm just not a fit 21-year-old lad anymore. You know, I've got wear and tear. I've got 300,000 miles on the clock. It is what it is. So yeah, that was how bad it was at the end. Got into the drug and alcohol service, detox from alcohol, detox from the painkillers. And the reason for that was because I was suffering with mental health breakdowns. So the biggest part of the problem was the complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So just anything to do with the past that involves the relationship I had with my son's mum would just trigger me instantly, and I would just go on the absolute warpath, and nothing would stop me until either I'd lost everything or I was banged up. It's as simple as that. So that's how bad it can get, and believe you me, there's people out there that are doing probably 10 times more, and that's the sad reality. It really is. I suffered some damage as a result of that. So unfortunately, I have cirrhosis of the liver, something called portal hypertension, and type 2 diabetes with really bad neuropathy. really bad. So roll the clock back. Where did it all begin? Okay, so when I was about 7ish, my dad left home. I didn't even know what alcohol was before that. And my mum was a bartender, so she was never at home. So in those sort of like next sort of 4 years up to about 11 years old, there's some things that happened that I didn't realise how much of an impact they would have on me until much later on in my life. But you know, I lost my cousin, I lost me 2 granddads, you know, in a very, very short space of time to each other, as well as losing me dad at home. So it's like 4 big sort of things that really affected me. And then as the years went on as a child, I started to notice my mum was drinking a lot. So she would come home from her cleaning jobs in the day and then drink until she went to the bar, and then she'd come home at 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Sometimes it was 12 o'clock, you know, when they used to shut at 12 the pubs. I think it used to be 10 actually, but she used to come home at 12 anyway. But yeah, so she so that was the first thing straight away. We had a big cupboard at home with loads of spirits in. I remember like martini, vodka, Smirnoff vodka, loads of other different ones, but they were the 2 that I would mostly drink when nobody was looking. So as I said to you yesterday, when my mum and dad split up and those things happened, I just switched off at school. I just had absolutely no interest at school. And I would, when I was about 11ish, I would start to drink little caps full of the alcohol. Not enough to notice that a lot was gone, but I was having access to alcohol every day at that point. And then as a sort of like young teenager, I could get my hands on alcohol. I won't say how I used to be able to do it, but I used to be able to get my hands on like maybe 6 cans of Stella, something like that. And then it was binging really then. It wasn't necessarily like an everyday addiction. So 15, 16, 17, I'm learning how to drive and stuff. So I've got absolutely no interest in alcohol. Here's a little fun story for you. My dad taught me how to drive when I was about 12, 13. And my mum used to have an Astra Belmont 1.4 4-speed H-Reg, white, with SRI alloys on it. You know, the saloon version. And when she used to go to the pub, I just used to jump in the car and on a terrace street as well, go and drive all around Northington, or you know, just like that sort of area in Manchester. Get home, reverse park the car like it never happened. So God knows how I got away with that. I had a few close scares with the police, but luckily they didn't come after me, and although I regret it all now, I wouldn't do it again now or anything like that, but they were sort of like the enjoyments I used to get out of my childhood. Stuff that was wrong, you shouldn't have been doing it, but I used to enjoy it. So I was lucky to get away with that. Now we're going to move on to my relationship now. So I had a couple of girlfriends at school, nice girls, and taught me a lot, let's put it that way. So when I got into my relationship with my son's mum, so we hit it off at work, and yeah, like straight away it was like love at first sight. You know, that really, really intense relationship thing that goes on when you first meet somebody that you really want to be with. And she was lovely in the beginning. You wouldn't have thought that you know, the way she turned out, you just never have thought that. So we move in pretty much straight away. I'm living at her mum's, and she tells me she can't have children. But that was a lie. And shortly after that statement was made, not just to me but to my mum said to me, she's not telling the truth. And when she highlighted it to me, it was already too late. We were expecting. So fully trapped. It was a trap. I didn't see it, and I walked straight into it. Really, I wouldn't change anything now, and I love my son to bits, and he knows that, but he absolutely knows what happened to me at the beginning. He knows that, and I do everything I can in my power now to make him aware of it now, that, that is a trap that he can walk into. He's a working lad, good looking lad, strong, powerful. It's not going to be long before he's got, girlfriends coming out of his ears. So, anyway, the relationship kicks off. We're at mum's. We're expecting a baby. My son arrives. 6 pounds 6 ounces, born at 6 minutes past 6. On the day he came. We sort of like struggle then. We're at her mum's. It's not fit for a baby. It's as simple as that, and that is me being kind to them. Not that they deserve that, but the house was not fit. Probably not even fit for humans. That's how bad it was. So straight away the pressure's on then to get a property. I'm a working lad. I'm not getting paid a lot. I was getting paid good money, but not compared to what other professions are. It's pitiful, the money in the motor trade. So I'm being paid this half decent wage. I get a mortgage together. It's a low cost house. It's ex-council. So we buy this house and we move in 2007, I think it was. And the wheels of the relationship really came off at that point. I was experiencing what I now know to be mental abuse. Very powerful mind games. The not talking to you, switching a phone off, texting other people, like, I'm talking about sexually, not like, I wasn't allowed friends. That was never the case for her. I just wanted for people to be happy. I've always been like that in all of my relationships. But for whatever reason, she just wanted me, but she wanted to destroy me as well at the same time. It never ever made any sense to me what her plan was. But anyway, this relationship is really bad at this point. My dad, I've not told my dad, I've not told my mum properly what's going on. I know we're living in this house together, and this is where both of us, she was drinking about half a bottle of wine a night to 3/4. I was drinking about 4 cans of Carling Cold, I think it was back then. Not a lot, but probably more than what it should have been. And that sort of went from drinking every weekend, binge drinking, to then starting to filter it in every day. Yeah, so getting in that routine of doing it every day. And then if you've got a relationship that's falling apart, yeah, and it's not right, and you add alcohol into the mix, there's only going to be one outcome. Alright? There's only going to be one outcome. So if you are out there and that is you, start making your plans now. Alright? And remember, be amicable. Okay? Because this story will show you how horribly wrong it can go. So, We're in this house, we're drinking, we're not getting on, right? She says to me, I want to go to Australia, right? So we start putting the wheels in motion. Luckily, that was on her dime, not mine. She said that she was going to pay for it, so I let her carry on. So we do all the forms. We go through a company called Visa Bureau, I think it was called. It's like a brokering agency for sorting visas out. Paid them the first payment of £1,800. Did all the sort of like paperwork certification through the solicitors, got it all stamped up, ready to go. And then we had to pay the final payment, and I had to do the skills assessment. And that was all that was outstanding, and then we could have emigrated to Australia. So we get to that stage, and then she says, I don't want to go to Australia. I want to move house. So I was like, wow. Okay. So, me being me, I didn't know there was a better life out there for me. I had no idea. I just thought that was me now for the rest of my life. In this relationship, struggling every day, arguing, constant, being ignored for 2 or 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, sometimes weeks. She used to really play with my head a lot. And she wasn't faithful either. I caught her texting other men, caught her kissing another man as well. All these things, guys, that are like red flags, just totally ignoring them. So we move house in 2008, late 2008 it was, right before the bankers crash. So moved house, and that's where the wheels really came off. That's where all the antics started getting 10 times worse. This was the worst 5 years of my life. 2008, 2013. It gives me nightmares to this day. Horrible time. So we're in our next house now. My son at this point is 2006, so he's about 2.5 years old. And now she is drinking a bottle of wine plus a night, and I am drinking about 8 to 10 cans of lager. Now, this is every day. Now this goes on, and we're on and off, arguing, falling out, fighting like cat and dog, you name it. It's going on and on and on. I've got nobody to talk to. I don't want to share it with my parents. I do eventually, but I didn't at that time. And I don't want to let my sisters see that I'm a failure. So it sort of carries on. There's incident after incident. And then the final straw was, I'll never forget it, the 24th of October 2012. I had my HGV test on the 25th, I think it was. I might be wrong with the dates. I can't remember if it was the 19th of October or the 24th. Irrespective, it doesn't make any difference. What the issue was my son was collected from school by my dad. My dad brought him home, and he used to be able to ride between 2 lampposts on the street, okay? On this particular day, he's gone past this lamppost, round the corner, and fell off the curb on his bike and gone like that across the concrete. So, there is a neighbour who later turns out I knew her. She rang the police and said there's a child in the middle of the road crying. right? I had absolutely no idea. Neither did my dad or my ex-partner. Nobody knew that had happened during the day. So I get home and I'm stripping a car in the back. My son's at the table having his tea, doing his homework, and she's in the kitchen doing the pots. And so I'm just setting the scene for you. I'm working away, and just out the corner of my eye, I just see a high-vis vest, with the checkered marks on it. And it obviously gets your attention straight away, like, whoa, what's up, lads? And they said, is he a small boy here, about this big, auburn hair? I said, yeah, he's my son. Come in. So we sat at the table, and they said, look, there's this call that's come in. We can see there isn't a problem here. There's nothing to worry about. It's just a very simple welfare call. All right, so, right, no problem. They leave, and oh my God, that's where it all started. Straight away, she starts accusing me of hatching a plan of some description with this neighbour to take my son away. This is how crazy it is. And I have video footage of her going on with herself. And that wasn't all of it. I've only managed to salvage a 20-second clip. And that's back then. I sent the video via email from my computer to my phone, but back then you could only get so much of a file size through the internet. So unfortunately, it didn't. I didn't get all of it, but I got enough to show people if they ask. So she starts on the wine. She's getting smashed. I have got my driving test the following day. I'm not interested in drinking. I just want to go to sleep. So I'm sat in my bed, and she's at the door in the bedroom, and she's just going absolutely mental at me. And I just said to her, I'm not interested. I'm going to sleep. So I switch the light off and I go to sleep. Yeah. And what is happening downstairs, which I had no idea of, was she was getting drunk. So drunk, it's probably well into her third bottle of Rioja red wine. And she decides to get in a car, and she's going to go and see these neighbours that have rang the police, come what may. Doesn't matter to her, she's going to do it. And she jumps in the car, she drives round the avenue, and she crashes into two cars on her way round to this house that she didn't even know where it was. Obviously, she doesn't find it. She doesn't, it's not like they gave us the address. So she doesn't know where it is. So she ends up coming back round, clipping the same two cars again, and parking the car on the drive, but hitting the front of the house with the car. No damage, just that's how drunk she was. So I wake up to flashing blue lights, and I can hear something going off, and I can hear the front doors open. So I go downstairs, and she's being arrested over the couch in the living room for driving, under suspicion of drink driving. So they take her away. Now at that point, my dad comes round. He has no idea what's happened, and I tell him what's happened, and I tell him about what's been going on, the abuse and the things that she's been doing. And he agreed with me that it was time to end the relationship, and it was. The relationship was so done by this point. From every aspect, physically, together, everything was just dead. So I fixed her vehicle, which was not fit for the road at that point. I fixed the vehicle, filled the vehicle with clothes, and drove to collect her from the police station, picked her up, and I told her what was happening, and I took her to her mum's, and I told her mum exactly what was happening. And all I said was, her head is absolutely gone. She's done this, and she's drinking this much, and this is not healthy, so please sort her out. And that's how I left it. So in that next week, so this has happened on the 19th, that's right, yeah, I took my test on the 20th, or the 18th, and I took my test on the 19th, something like that. So she's at mum's for that next week, so I'm taking George to school, my dad's picking him up, and my son's called George, by the way, and I'm, just making his tea, getting him to ring his mum up every night. And at this point, I'm trying to work out what is the future. I can't afford the mortgage by myself. All of those things that any parent's going to start going through, it was what was going through. Little did I know that in this country, if you have a child in partnership with somebody and you're both named on the register, which we are, alright, dead simple, when you separate, the matter becomes civil. So this is why I say please be amicable, right? Because it's going to save you so much heartache just being amicable with each other. That's male and female. I'm telling you, please be amicable, right? Now, she had managed to say that I was a heavy drinker, I was taking all these tablets, I was abusive, I was this, I was that, I was the other, you name it. She assassinated my character. And none of that has to be proven. It's all slanderous, but none of it has to be proven in a civil court. They have to make a decision on the balance of probability. In a criminal court, it's beyond reasonable doubt. So on the balance of probability, with what she was presenting and saying to the court, she managed to get a interim residency order, a prohibited steps order, and a restraining order. So on the day that was served, which was a Friday if I remember rightly, it was just coming up to George's home time, and it was my dad that was going to pick him up. My dad was on the way to pick him up, and my dad received a call from the school to say, don't collect George, he's subject to a court order, which my dad then relayed that information to me, and at that moment my whole world fell apart. What happened between me leaving work and getting home, I can't remember. I get home and I'm sat in my living room with my dad on two couches, and I've got stood in front of me two police officers, and stood in front of me dad is two police officers. She's got George in the back of one of these police cars, and her mother come into my house, or our house at that time, it's now my house, and they start to tear it apart of all my son's possessions and what was ever left of hers. It was harrowing. One of the worst days I've ever had to endure in my whole life. She took him away, and those next few days I was on suicide watch, pretty much. It was so bad. This is where the drinking just got way out of hand, and the painkillers, everything. Anything that would give me a head change, I was just absolutely into. I've never gone into recreational drugs. I've just not. I had no interest in it. My two fixes were alcohol and painkillers. So, yeah. So my son's gone now, and my life's falling apart. She then rings me about a week later and asks to come home. She says she's made a mistake. So I said to her, you're not coming back unless I've got a court order for 3 days a week. So I get the court order, which is about another $4,000, something like that, maybe a bit more. And on receipt of that, I say, right, move back in. But I said to her when she moved in, if the drinking carries on and the abuse carries on, we are not together anymore. I will be leaving you. I said, you know, we've got a trial period between now and the end of Christmas, and we'll see. So she comes back, and lo and behold, same old stuff starts happening. You know, the mind games, the abuse, the alcohol, everything is just back again. So I made my decision a couple of days after Christmas. I was leaving. I did warn her I was going to do that. Packed my stuff up, and I left on the 1st of January 2013. Yeah, and then that's where, you know, everything changed for me. In the beginning, so for the next few months, I didn't have a girlfriend. I was a free agent, and she was letting me see George, but she was ringing the police. If I picked him up from school, she was saying I kidnapped him. It was horrendous. They were the worst days of my life. George suffered as a result, and this carried on. And then I met my daughter's mum, and our relationship hit it off straight away, and we were caught pregnant straight away. And when she got hold of this information, my partner before with my son, that was it. I never saw my son again, not until 2023. So from 2013 to 2023, 10 years I'd not seen George for. You know, his little sister never got to meet him. He never got to meet his sister. Yeah, so damaging. And my addictions were just absolutely out of control. What caused me to be on painkillers in the first place was I broke my hand at work. So I broke a couple of bones here with an incident that happened with my toolbox against the door. And I was prescribed prescription painkillers, and that's where my addiction started. And that's the other lesson in all of this. There's a few lessons here. It's about custody, how to behave, being amicable, addictions, where addictions can start. You know, I was prescribed painkillers, and because I'd never had a head change like that before, that was it. I was instantly in love. That happened during my relationship with my son's mum, and that's what played out at the end. So yeah, 10 years. I got a knock at the door in May of 2023, and that was my son, wanting to see his dad, which it's so cruel. The fact that she managed to keep that like that. There was an incident that happened after about 18 months, whereby I was really unwell at this point. I was experiencing psychosis, drug-induced psychosis, and on a particular day I'd gone to work looking for a row. I had a row at work, left, drank in a pub all day, and then decided it would be a good idea to confront her outside work. Bad mistake, bad move. That just ended up in her ringing the police straight away. And, you know, I can't remember fully the details of it. I can remember some, but not fully. But I just completely lost my temper by this point. And although I never hit her or, you know, did anything to her in any way, shape or form, I damaged her car. And it wouldn't have been pleasant for her either. Let's put it that way. You know, and I was convicted of criminal damage and harassment, which is what they class it as, even though I wouldn't have cared if I never saw her again. It was about my son. It was nothing to do with her. And yeah, I was given, so like I say, you know, when you think your life's bad, or it can get worse, you know, before I knew it, I found myself in HMP Manchester, Strangeways. you know, I'll go into that maybe on the next video. But yeah, you know, there's a lot more details in there. I'm just touching on it, but that just gives you an idea, or I don't know, some sort of like knowledge about the past. You know, that's not the only traumatic event that's gone on. There's been others, but that is by far the most outstanding one. That's the one that I have to live with every day. You know, I have my son in my life every day now. He's doing really well for himself. You know, we've managed to turn his life around. He really was on a bad direction when he came to see us. I actually won custody back, believe it or not. The social workers, social services, things like that, they all listened to me. They saw the evidence that I had of the abuse that I endured during the relationship, and that's what ultimately ended it for her, effectively. You know, her reign of power, and that's what it was, a complete power trip. You know, you know, as it's turned out, she didn't care about my son. She just didn't care. She hated him because he was like me. Just like me. You know, I knew that in the relationship when I was with her. I saw her behave in ways that I thought, why are you saying that to him? Or why are you doing that? It doesn't make any sense. He's your son. Needless to say, he had to live without. He's gone without. I lived a very neglectful childhood. It's very, very sad. Came out of school with no qualifications whatsoever. He was in college and doing his, you know, whatever subject it is that he's doing. I won't discuss it here, but he was gonna get taken out of college because of absency. So we managed to turn that around for him. We got him to college and back every day. He got invited for a second year conditional offer. And then I taught him how to drive, bought him his first car, so now he's mobile. And then he got a job not so long ago, and he's doing really well in it. He really enjoys it. He's being paid good money, and he's doing very well for himself. So, you know, every cloud does have a silver lining, I guess. But I'm still living with the consequences. They've not gone. I'm still finding it hard. I don't want to go too far into how I'm feeling, but it's sad. It's sad that a man in his late 30s is feeling like that. And there's some factors that can't be helped. You know, the money. You know, I don't know. It's so difficult at the moment. But there you go. That's one of the past stories. I'll go into contact, children custody, other subjects, family courts, crown courts, prison. You know, we'll touch on more addiction issues, how you're hiding addiction, how you're functioning in addiction. There's loads to discuss. So, look, I'll leave it at that for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Subscribe if you like. Get in touch in the comments. I'll leave my email address. And yeah, I'll see you for the next one. Take care. Bye bye.